Well, welcome back to the Cyber Talent Matrix. We are deep into season 2, and we're continuing our mission to explore the human stories and strategies that define the cybersecurity workforce. We've promised to bring you bold conversations this season, and today's episode delivers exactly that. The title of this episode is Nolite te bastardes Carborundorum, which is a Latin phrase popularized by the television series The Handmaid's Tale, and it loosely translates to, "Don't let the bastards grind you down." That phrase perfectly captures the spirit of today's conversation. It's about building a career by believing in yourself, staying persistent, and refusing to let critics, gatekeepers, or stereotypes define your path. So we're joined today by Caitlin Sarian, widely known as the Cybersecurity Girl. Caitlin is a cybersecurity expert, an advocate, content creator, speaker, and someone who continues to break down barriers and blaze her own trail in this complex and ever-changing profession. So today, we're talking about resilience, identity, and what happens when you refuse to be ground down by the traditional mold. Caitlin, welcome to the Matrix.
Thanks for having me. Very excited to be here.
Oh, we were so excited to have you on the show today. So I want to just kind of set the stage and frame this up. I know you've done plenty of podcasts in the past about your story coming in here. So I don't want to necessarily rehash that. I think everybody should go listen to those other podcasts that's captured really well. I'd love to just kind of dive in a little bit behind the story. When you look back on the early days of building your presence in cybersecurity, what was the hardest thing that you had to make peace with internally? Not about the industry, but really about yourself, in order to keep showing up and not let others grind you down.
Yeah, I mean, that's such a good question. And I think I still have to figure out how to do that every day. But when I first started, I think it was just like, I'm never going to know everything. So just being curious and making sure that I am excited about what I'm learning rather than feeling defeated by everything. I think when you're breaking into a new field, a lot of times you're like, oh my gosh, there's no way I'm going to even come close to comprehending what's going on. And you kind of just shut down. And so for me, it was really let me just continue to be curious. Let me continue to ask questions, because once I stopped asking those questions, then I was definitely going to be behind. And then also having kind of knowing that I'm not going to know everything, and that's okay. And to do the best with what I have. But I was always the annoying. Well, I don't like saying annoying person with the questions, because then it puts a bad stigma on the people who ask questions. But I was always the one asking questions. And even I did consulting. So when I went to client sites, I would ask an absurd amount of questions, even questions that probably weren't related to what we were talking about, but just so I could get the whole picture of what I was going into. And I actually think that's my biggest strength in this field, because no one's going to know everything. And yeah, I personally feel the minute you stop asking questions is the minute you're behind. So
are you one of those people who just kind of likes to just sit for a bit with and observe and collect information and really think on it before you start to kind of respond, whether it's back in your consulting days or even now when you're looking at all these kind of issues that are coming across the news and you're getting ready to produce a video for your followers? Is that just kind of your style, or is it something different?
I feel I don't observe long. I feel I ask a lot of questions and go to a bunch of different resources with kind of similar questions to make sure that we're all under the same understanding and also all on the same page, which most of the time in consulting, they were not all on the same page. But from even from a content perspective, right? I want to see what an AI expert's talking about. I want to see what a tech expert's talking about. I want to see what all these types of people are talking about on the same topic before I make my video about how I personally feel, because I don't, it's actually the opposite of kind of sitting back and watching. It's going out and kind of doing more journalistic things than just sitting back and seeing, oh, what is other people saying? I'm okay, let me go to this person that I know that I really trust. Let me ask this person. And then from all their opinions and perspectives, I kind of create my own and kind of figure out where to take it. So I your initial question of do you sit back and watch? I feel I'm the opposite person when it comes to sitting back and watching. I literally don't think I ever sit still. I wish I could sit still, but I don't. But I do wait and kind of journalistically figure out from my own perspective how I want to portray what's going on. and I want to, and for me personally, like my goal is to portray it best for the general population, best for the general public. Like, what do these people need to know? And so, yeah, that's for me, that's kind of like, or when I was in consultant is like, okay, we have all of this information. How can we digest this and understand it? Going back to what they hired us for, right? So it's kind of, it's not really sitting back and watching. It's like really getting my hands dirty and figuring out how to tell the story all cohesively.
I was wondering, when you're talking about, kind of being able to ask questions and being comfortable with that, I think that's a, big skill that a lot of people kind of, I wouldn't say refrain or like shy away from adopting, but it's not a widely adopted skill. Was that kind of just something that's always, is that how you've always been wired? Or is that like, some point in your professional or academic career, you like, a switch turned on or something like that? I remember, for me, like I would feel really like scared about looking like, oh, I don't know what I'm talking about, or like I'm dumb or something like that. And so like, that was the skill that I had to try and like, kind of hammer in over a long time. But like, is that kind of a natural instinct to be comfortable with asking questions and things of that sort?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I love that question because for me, I was not like the textbook definition of smart, right? Like I like landed myself in AP classes, but I literally was like probably the one that was like the furthest behind. Like from even high school, I had to like make sure like I would go to the office hours, I go to the teacher after. I would have to break it down to myself a million times before I could actually get on everyone. At least that's how I felt, get on everyone else's level. So when I went into school as an engineer too, I was so, for me, I was like, I do not even belong in the same classroom as these people, but I have to learn because I love learning and I want to figure it out. I'm a big problem solver and I'm like convinced that I can figure out whatever I set my mind to. And it's the same as like a lot of people when you're in high school and you're like, oh, I'm really bad at history, so I'm not even going to try. I'm not even going to ask those questions. I don't even want to try. But if you're constantly in the impression of like, I'm going to learn this no matter what, even if I'm bad at it, you're going to start having to ask questions. And I actually think I'm good at cyber and I was good at engineering because I constantly had to ask a million questions in order for me to even feel on the same bar or level as everyone else in my class. I went to every office hour. I like volunteered with my teacher. Like, and there are a few classes that I still like, I barely passed. And I swear there was 3, physics 2, and then I had 2 MATLAB classes, which are coding kind of. That's like my version of coding in college. And that was why I always thought I was going to be really bad at cyber. And I swear the only reason why the teachers passed me, I did all my homework. I did really well with that, but I was terrible at test taking, was because they're just like, we don't know what to, like, you come to every office hour. Like I got C minuses in those classes, but all the other ones I got like A's and stuff. And that was fine. But knowing that like I always felt like I was behind and it didn't matter because I wanted to learn it. And in order for me to learn it, I had to ask those questions. So I didn't really care if people thought I was stupid. And I also was like, I'm kind of doing everyone a favor because I would think that at least 50% of the people in this room probably have a similar question or kind of thinking it, but they just are either half paying attention or they're scared or something else. And so for me, it was more like, I just love learning. I want to figure it out. I definitely, none of that stuff came easily to me. Same with cyber. It never came easily. When I first got in, I was working like crazy hours, like late nights. And it was like, I didn't even bill the client for that because I'm like, I'm just trying to figure out, like, I'm trying to get a standard baseline here so I could help you. So I think it was more of like, instead of feeling defeated and scared, I was like, I have to figure out how to do this. But I loved learning and I was so excited about it that it didn't feel weird.
So it was kind of like the curiosity just like drove everything through,
Everything.
right?
Yeah.
Okay. And like, was that, did you start to, again, when we talk about like in, the influencer space and stuff like that, like there is this big, like, confidence sort of thing, at least for me, like I couldn't even imagine doing something like that just because for me, I'm like, oh, the optics and the like, I don't know how to do it and stuff like that. Is that, was that another thing that just kind of followed with that natural curiosity where it's like, well, I'm curious about this thing. I'm learning a lot of it just immediately and like all this stuff and I'm working at it. And now I feel confident in that. Or is it almost like this, I guess, force that has to go hand in hand with that curiosity, I guess. I know we're very abstract here, but I'm like, I hope I'm making that question somewhat cohesive.
Yeah, I know that makes sense. And
Okay.
and if I am answering it wrong, just stop me. But so there's two things when I started social media, like had three pillars and three missions of why I was doing it, which is what kind of drove me to like not care about what I looked like online. I'm like, there are literally ladies dancing online. Like, I think I'll be okay, like educating people, like I promise you, there are 100 million worse things that you could do than put your face out there if it's like for the right reasons, right? Um, but for me, like again, it was a curiosity of like, can I make this work? Can I like impact the people I want to impact? And social media is constantly changing, just like cyber. And in order to figure out, you just have to keep going for it. You have to keep posting. You have to keep learning what the algorithm likes now versus last month. And that to me is like fun. It was really cool to me to see. Again, it was when I first started with it though, like super uncomfortable. Like the reason why Cybersecurity Girl, the name came about was because I didn't use my name. So I only had TikTok, and I'm like, no cyber professionals on TikTok yet. They don't want to do that because they're all, paranoid. As for some of them for good reason.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm just gonna say Cybersecurity Girl. Like the email attached it. Like there was no way unless they like could reverse Google image search, and this was like 5 years ago now. So like a lot of people didn't even know that existed still. Like there's no way people are going to know it's me, and there's no cyber professionals on here. And so from like that perspective of like a professional perspective, I was kind of embarrassed, but I ended up getting over it. Obviously now I post everywhere. But it took a while. And I think I think that's normal. Like, I think it's not like a normal thing to be okay with like posting videos or even talking to your phone. Like it's like feels uncomfortable, I mean, we're talking to the computer every day when we go on video calls. So there's really not that much of a difference. I think if you know your why and you're also like continuing to be curious, then it doesn't really matter what happens. But you have to be like consistent and excited. And yeah, like you really need to understand like why you're posting. But I think for me, yeah, like social media is still like a really fun, it's like a game to me. It's like, what can I do? How can I impact the most people? And I still make videos literally every day. Like I don't batch edit them. I don't have anyone scripting them. It's all me. And I've done that for 5 years. People think I'm insane. I am slightly insane. I will, but yeah, I think you just have to like, again, know like the reason why I was okay with it is because I knew my why. I will say my first viral video, I almost took down because I mispronounced something, and I was really scared people were going to think I was an idiot, and I was getting mean comments being like, how are you in cyber? I said, have I been pawned instead of have I been pwned? I like knew the word pwned, but I didn't realize it was spelled like that. And I'm not a gamer, so I like didn't know. And everyone was like freaking out on me, like, how can you be in cyber and you don't even know how to pronounce like pwn? Like you're such an idiot. Like how can you say you're a cyber expert? And I was freaking out. I was like, oh my gosh, these people think I'm an idiot. Like the whole point of this is to show that I'm like an expert and help people, and they think I'm dumb. But it got the message across to everyone. Like people still went to the website. Like there's a lot of people that didn't even care or even didn't even realize that I mispronounced it. And I kept it up there, and yeah, that was hard. But then I just stopped looking at comments. And then I was like, I don't care. My goal with every video was as long as I help one person, that's all that matters. So when I make a video and I know that's going to help someone, then I don't look at it anymore and I move on.
Well, one of my questions was going to be like that moment you realized that some people weren't going to, take you seriously. And I've heard you reference your little cybersecurity channel, air quoting, several times, kind of as a throwback to maybe people who are trying to grind you down in your earlier days. Is that the moment? Is that like one of those distinctive moments, that first viral video, because you made a mistake in pronunciation, or was there something else that or another moment that like just sticks out to you as like people that almost makes you want to quit, right? That people just like aren't going to take you serious here, but you're going to have to persist beyond that negativity.
Yeah. I mean, there's still negativity, not as much as it was. Like the first 2 years was kind of rough. Like I'd see or hear from people that I used to work with being like, oh, this person's like talking shit behind your back, thinking that like what you're doing is like not okay. Like, and it would be like old partners that I worked for. And I was like, oh, okay. And that was kind of sad. I just think and then I started realizing you're never going to please anyone ever. And if you go outside right now or, go to a mall and you see all the different types of people around you, that is literally what's on the internet. So the thought of trying to please every single one of those people around you is exhausting.
It's impossible.
And it's impossible. You can't please everyone. And honestly, then I started looking at like bad comments being like, there was a time like after that first video where I would just start messaging people saying, thanks so much for helping the algorithm. I really appreciate you pushing out my video.
Yeah.
And they didn't like that. But I'm like, it's true. You can keep hating on me, but honestly, like we see it every single day in the news. Like people that are hated on are also like loved from a different angle or a different group of people.
Yeah.
And
It's
obviously
engagement.
I don't like the hate, and I try not to have it, but I've learned to live with it. And I've learned that like, you're not at the top if you're not getting hate. And also, again, my one goal is like, as long as I help one person, I don't really care. And so I really did stop watching or looking at any of the comments unless someone's like, hey, have you seen your comments on this last video? Which that hasn't happened. That's only happened one time. And I just don't look, I don't care. Cause I'm like, I'm trying to help the masses. The masses is literally everyone and your mom. I don't know how people take it, or I just don't look. I don't look anymore.
That's good. It's healthy. It's healthy.
Yeah, that's the way to do it. I feel like, what's the saying, any press is good press, because at least it's the attention kind of on there. But I think to your point, you can't please everyone. So
yeah, exactly. And then like, again, if there's ever a mistake, like, news articles print mistakes all the time. And then they just like make another one and they say update, like we are updating this, whatever. And so to me, that was always like, if I ever did anything wrong and it got a lot of hate, then I'm like, I'm still getting visibility and I can still say like, hey, I messed up. I'm like a human, like.
Yeah, exactly. Nobody can be an expert in everything, especially in a field like cyber where things are changing all the time. And I think that, it goes back to that curiosity piece, is that I do feel like now it's being recognized and encouraged to have that curiosity, and that willingness to learn is a very important skill that, people are really looking for. And I think, in the past, it was kind of like a shame, and it's awkward, and it's, being vulnerable and all of that. But I do feel like we've kind of come over that barrier. And, especially with cyber and just emerging tech, AI, all these things, like you have to have that sense of curiosity and that willingness to learn and know that you're not going to be able to be an expert. You're not going to be able to be perfect, because this is a ever-changing field, and there's always going to be, a new update and a new thing to learn and a new something to keep on top of.
Yeah. And actually, like, I've realized that like being smart is like, it only gets you so far, right? And it just depends on like, how much of a drive you have and how curious you are with like the area that you're in. So
absolutely.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I've been wanting to ask is, when people see you, they see you as the cybersecurity girl. They see you as a content creator, who's, popular. And obviously you're much more than just that. So like, I guess what's like one part of building influence that people romanticize, but don't quite understand emotionally?
That's a good question. I think I'm going to speak a little bit about like my experience with what you were talking about right before you hit the main question, which was like, when people see me, they think of me as like an influencer. And for me, again, I think my one of my insecurities when I was starting this is I want people to think that I'm smart, because I worked really, really, not like smart, but like I worked really, really hard to get to where I am. And like I had started my channel
recognized in the space as a cybersecurity person, right?
As an expert. Like an actual expert. Yeah.
Because before I started my channel, I had 8 years like international experience. I was one of the top rated performers in all these companies. I've worked at amazing companies before that. And so my insecurity was always like, I want people to take me seriously. Because one, I am like, not to pull the woman card, but I feel like because a D&I initiative happened, a lot of times too, I feel a little bit like imposter syndrome. Like, was I only hired because I was a woman? And so I always felt like I needed to prove myself in a lot of ways even in corporate environments. And so when I started going into corporate environments as an influencer, I'm like, well, I know the stigma I have on what influencers are, right? And who knows, like these tech people are going to have probably the same or worse stigmas of an influencer. And in reality, I probably worked longer than they have. Like, And so for me, that stigma still kind of hits sometimes. Like I can still see it creeping in when I like introduce myself as like an influencer, because I'm like, oh, like they're going to think I'm just like some airhead girl that dances on camera and they don't understand what's going on. When in reality, like influence means so much more than that. And so I think it just goes back to like, I want people to one thing that actually a friend or one of our friends talks to me about all the time whenever I see her, Jen DeBerge, I love her. She's from MasterCard. She's always like, how are you so like still so down to earth and so kind? Like you are literally famous. And I'm like, no, I'm famous in an interesting part of the world. And I'm only famous because of these people. And I didn't start this to become famous. I started this to influence and impact people. And I want to mentor as many people as I can. Obviously, like I can't mentor that many, but like even being able, like going to WESIS and being able to talk to all these women, it's like, that's like where my heart is. And so to me, it's like, stay grounded, like keep being curious. And like, when I like show up as my full self every time. I don't remember if I answered that like full question, but
I think it was a great
full question. I feel like there was a last part that
yeah,
I didn't.
No,
Okay.
It's just the emotional piece. Like what do people don't understand emotionally about it, or being in this space where you have a lot of attention, right? And you kind of have that outsiders looking at you as like, I don't want to call it a stigma, but the stigma of being an influencer. Like what don't they understand emotionally about being in that role? Because there's so few people who are influencers with such popularity. It's a small handful of you. What don't we understand about that emotional journey into that space?
I think there's two types. There's like the in-person emotional experience, and then there's like the emotional experience of like every day you're putting yourself out there and it's either going to flop or do well. Like it's hard. Like you have to like just be okay with like, again, I kind of post it and I don't look at it. And then like a day later, I'm like, oh, it's doing well. Or like, oh, that one didn't do as well. So there's like that emotional experience of like every day you're being judged, every day. Like sometimes you feel like your self-worth too is like tied to the numbers, and like you have to kind of step away from that. But for me too, like when we're in person at conferences, I absolutely love seeing people, but I give like everything I can, and I get so emotionally drained after like 2 hours. Like almost at every conference, after like an hour and a half, I'm like, I got to go to the girls' bathroom and like just like sit in the bathroom for not even sit, but like just stand there and just like be quiet for like a couple. Or I usually try to get a room in the same hotel as the conference, so I can just pop back to my room for like an hour and decompress and then come back out. Because again, I want to show up as my full self. And everyone's like, oh, you're an extrovert. I actually don't think I'm an extrovert. Like I grew up like hiding behind my mom's legs. I like would put a blanket over my head and read in like public places so I wouldn't be bothered. Like I don't think I'm actually an extrovert. I think I'm like was forced to be an extrovert, and I love being able to talk to people, but I still need I need to fill my own cup first in order for me to like help everyone else. So it's emotionally draining because I want to be the best person I can be when people come up and talk to me and like ask for advice. But I think I do really need like my own space. So that's always like a difficult situation, but I love going to conferences and being able to talk to people because that's like part of my mission. So what I love to do.
I would imagine that it's hard to kind of set those boundaries too for yourself, because you're basically in service to other people doing what you do, and you're constantly, trying to educate and, help other people. And then it's hard to kind of like turn that off, or trying to respect your own boundaries and just kind of being aware of your capacity socially, all of that, just like you said, it's very emotionally draining. And so it could just take a lot out of you. So it's good that you've kind of recognized like what, where your limit is. But I would imagine it can be hard to kind of continuously make sure that you're, taking care of yourself first and setting those boundaries.
For sure. And then even like responding to people too, like online.
Sure. Yeah.
Like not just the comments, but like all the messages I get, I'm like, I can't respond. And I want to respond because I'm like, all these people need help. And I've like not let anyone onto my social media ever. because I'm mortified. I'm like, if I could potentially click a phishing link and this is like my job, like what happens when you're late at night, tired, and you're trying to respond to these people and you click it and then it's gone. And so it's like a lot. I mean, I get thousands of questions every day, like in my direct inbox too. And I just like, you can't do it all, but you can do your best. That's all.
Which I think is a good segue into this piece about resilience and building resilience, right? I think let's not talk about it as a buzzword as we do in cybersecurity resilience, but human resilience, right? It's not some big dramatic moment. It's really what happens in the quiet in between moments, separating into your hotel room for 30 minutes, 60 minutes, the comments that you ignore, the doubts that you sit with, the choice to keep showing up when no one else is applauding. So over time, that kind of resilience doesn't just like help you survive. It kind of shapes, it shapes how you define success and how others experience your influence. So can we talk about that not as a slogan, but as a practice, and how that practice ultimately redefines credibility and impact? And I think maybe one way to start with that is just kind of the theme and the title of the show, don't let the bastards grind you down. So what does that look like in your everyday life, in your day-to-day practice, aside from, taking a moment in your own hotel room to decompress when you have that moment? But are there any other tips that you can kind of provide for all of us who are kind of going through similar strains of resilience or struggles in our day-to-day?
Yeah. So I feel like you can't let them grind you down if you know your worth and like you're like confident in yourself and you're like happy with your life. It's a lot harder for them to grind you down. And so I've started realizing like I need to like take care of myself first before I like, even try to figure out anyone else. And for me, that's like, having my calm mornings. Like I usually wake up and I like make myself a protein shake and I do the little things and I, read my Bible and I journal and, I kind of do a little bit of a walk in the morning and just kind of clear my head and just like listen to music that makes me happy. Sometimes I dance. A lot of times actually in the morning, I'll turn on like a good song and I'm just dancing. I have like a mini trampoline in my room. I'll do that. But I do stuff that like just fills my cup. I'll be with like I'll go out with my friends or I'll give them a call or, go to a workout with them. I need to fill my cup before I can even like get into anything else. And once you feel confident and like kind of unshakable and resilient, no one's going to tear you down. And then the other thing is, I think it's so important to have the best people around you, because there have been like so many times where I feel like I'm at my wit's end and I'm like, even if I do my own little things that like are supposed to help me, like sometimes like I love reading, but like when you're stressed out and you have so much work to do, like it's not fun, like there's certain things that like, even if you love doing that and it does fill your cup on normal days when you're like that stressed out, like you just need other people to like have faith in you and kind of like breathe life into you when you can't. So it's not just a you thing, it's like your squad. And I didn't really realize I realized how important it was, but I feel like the last 4-ish months, I've just been so grateful for the people that are in like around me and in my corner that I can like have open conversations with, that like I don't have to like filter out anything and I can just like tell them all that's on my mind and they can come back and be like, you have such great, like God has such great plans for you. Here's like what you're doing. Like here's what we need to do for next steps. Like I just like, you need to have the right people in your corner and you also need to know what fills your cup. And again, I know that sounds crazy, but once you have that, it's really hard and having a mission too. Once you have like a mission and purpose and you're like, well, it doesn't matter, because if it's not hitting that mission and purpose, then like, I know God's purpose for me in my life. This is part of it right now. And if it's not going to hit that purpose, then I don't need to worry about it. So like having alignment on purpose, like knowing what fills your cup, bringing the right people around you, then you're like actually unstoppable. Because even when you have like down days, you can just call someone else and they can kind of fill your cup instead. But I think that's like the most important. You honestly don't think about anyone else when you have all that.
That's awesome. So what's your productive hour? You could take the morning, you could start filling your own cup, in your own ways. Where in the day is your most creativity and your execution phases come in?
Yeah. So technically my productive hours are like literally right when I wake up, which is why I try to calm down a little bit, because I'm like, I don't need caffeine. I'm like ready when I get up. And I'm like, sometimes that's probably not good that I'm like waking up and immediately starting work. But my most productive hours are like 7 a.m. until like 2. And then once 2:00 hits, I don't know what it is. It doesn't matter. It's just terrible. I'm dead into the world until like 7 p.m. again. I try not to take any, it's like really weird. I don't know what I have tried to fix it. I just can't fix it. It's fine. And then 7 p.m. actually, like some of my most viral videos are at night when I'm just like, let's just get it over with. Let's just film this and go. And I like don't have scripts or anything. So it's like, I feel like I'm the most real at night. Like I am very creative and productive because I'm like, I just need to film this and edit it and post it because I post every day. And like I said, I don't batch edit. So if I haven't posted by 7, like I need to film it. And so I kind of work from like 7 till 9 and then I go do like a little meditation and then go to sleep. But I'm most productive in the morning. Like my brain is fully functioning right now.
That's awesome.
I'm
glad we got you in the morning.
I don't know if you could tell. You guys got my prime hours.
I don't want to hog the mic. I'll turn it over to Sasha or Will if you had any like follow-up questions on the resilience theme here that we're pulling on with Caitlin.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No. That's all you. That's all you.
No.
Okay. Fine. Sure. Well, so first of all, shout out the keeping people in your circle that you need. Cause like, again, it's the whole, like a happiness shared is a happiness doubled and a suffering shared is a suffering halved. Right. And all that goodness.
Yeah. They kind of hold your burden. Like I literally went and saw one of my really good friends and she was like, can I just like pray that I take some of your burden off you? And I'm like, yes, you can.
Hell yeah, man. Come on. Yeah. No. The reason that, again, Sasha, if you want to go ahead, because I was actually going to ask, we were touching on this subject, like, it was like 10 minutes back, which was, talking about like developing this personal brand. And like, you've kind of gone on to talk about, people need to be able to kind of communicate like themselves almost as a brand, right? Maybe embrace the cringe, do all that kind of stuff. Again, it's, I believe it was on the subject of, how do you not just become another resume kind of thing, right? And so part of me is going like, how do you get somebody to kind of, embrace themselves as that brand, be able to like, I'm not going to say like, sell their resume and stuff, but that kind of deal. Because again, there is that, I think, you might be an introvert, but you've also been trained to be more sociable, right? While there's, some people like, again, for me, when I got out of college, I was like, do I really have to talk with people about this kind of stuff? Here's my resume, here's my GitHub, here's like all that stuff. Like, get away from me until you like me or something. Right. How would people go about, kind of doing that, I guess, I hope that was a cohesive question.
That makes a lot of sense. So I have a question for you, like back is when you meet someone that like you work with or in class, like what makes you drawn to them?
What makes me drawn to them? It is not. It is very much like, again, it's how people, kind of communicate. You can definitely, see like that, again, we were talking about the curiosity angle, right? Like you could see just their will to learn, right? And all that stuff kind of come through, which is, it's one of those kind of things. That's what I'd say. I hope that's a good enough answer. And what about
like shared experiences too? Like, do you like, oh, I had this one professor. Oh my gosh, I did too. He was so hard or whatever. Like, this is what I did.
Yeah.
It's shared experiences. It's like being able to communicate. But I ultimately think like when I used to do, like when I would hire people, I couldn't care about like their technology skills because I was like, I'm just going to, every company has different tech stacks, right? I care more about how you can communicate with me, like the type of human you are, what you like to do. And it's like those extra things that really make a resume pop, in my personal opinion. And it's the same with social media, right? If you go on social media and you're just like a robot talking about like GitHub repos, like no one's going to watch that. But if you're talking about like, oh my gosh, I did this, it helps XYZ and like, this is why, or this is how I got there. Like the whole story behind it, it gets people to like be drawn to you and like understand who you are and like how you work and like be relatable to you, right? Even like, so for example, I have a friend who's super smart also in cyber and tech, and she's a really good golfer too. She played golf in college. And she was like, she's been trying to figure out how to do her social media brand and like trying to figure out, and she kind of goes both ways and it's inconsistent. And I was like, why don't you just start like showing you hit a drive ball like hundreds of yards and then turn around and just say a funny tech fact or like, something like interesting where like you're getting normal people that want to watch golf content, but you're also educating them on like the things that you know. Like it's being able to show up as your full self, because your resume is like, look at all these tech things and accolades. I always tell people like put personal stuff on there. Like I used to have part of my resume was like what I was proud of, and I did volunteering, and that was like the thing that whenever I got interviews, the interviewer would always ask me about that area. Like, oh, why did you do this? Or, I also did this and I got really excited when I saw it. So it's showing up as your full self, because when you go to work, you show up as your full self. Like you aren't just like I'm a GitHub guy, I'm going to sit in the corner and not do anything. Like you're going to talk to people, you're going to interact with people. People want to work with friends, right? They want to work with people that they relate to. They want to work with, like, they want your story. And so obviously you need your like tech skills for most of it. But to me, like when you're trying to build your brand and you're trying to build more of like a technical brand, you still need to show up and like kind of bring yourself in some way, shape, or form, because otherwise it's just like not relatable and people are like not interested.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just like don't just be a cardboard cutout, spitting facts right on technical stuff.
Don't just have your Security Plus certification and then think that you're going to get a job, and then I mean, it would great certification, but like they need more from you. And that's what I've heard from, I mean, Jeff, I'm sure you get this too. I've heard from a lot of recruiters, like the issue is not this tech skills. The issue is like the communication skills when it comes to like job interviews. And so it's like, how are you showing up? And I know a lot of people prep for interviews, but I feel like if it's from the heart, like if you're not trying to be a certain person and like act a certain way to show how smart you are, and you're just showing up as yourself, like you've already done all of the work in class, right? Like you've already done all the work with your certifications. So when you show up like your full self, like whatever that looks like, and kind of put your own creative spin on it.
Yeah. As I think at the end of the day, this person's going to have a certification and this person's going to have the same certification. So you have to be able to explain and communicate and showcase what makes you different from that person who has the same certification and education as you do. And it's oftentimes the experience that you have outside of that and the passions that you have and, what makes you uniquely you.
Sorry, before we shift over to This Week I Learned, I did want to ask one question more on the less about the emotional piece and the vulnerability piece and resilience. And I appreciate you being so open with us, Caitlin, and vulnerable with us on those experiences. As you've built your own brand, you've gotten to do a lot of really exciting, cool things. NATO, World Economic Forum. You're now the #1 cybersecurity creator on all platforms, which is just incredible. I guess what are the one or two really big, like, holy shit, I can't believe I'm doing you did your podcast with Mel, right? Like, so
yeah.
What are the top 2 or 3 for you that you were just like, wow, I couldn't believe it?
To be fair, like literally every day I'm like, pinch me, like this is crazy. But Mel was definitely one of them, being able to go on the Mel Robbins podcast.
That was huge. That was awesome. That was great.
Yeah, so. I mean, I've loved Mel since her book in 2019 and like way before I started Cybersecurity Girl. So that was really cool. Robert Herjavec, who's been like an industry titan. Like I'm a big Shark Tank person. My whole family is like super entrepreneurial, at least like my mom's side is. So we've always watched Shark Tank. He like has reached out to me multiple times to try to figure out how we can work together. I'm like, oh, okay. Like, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, Davos is also incredible. Again, I got to like speak on panels at Davos and I'm just sitting here like, what is happening? And then NATO is also so fun. But yeah, just being in the room with some of those people it's crazy. But I just know that again, that's like my mission, right? So I'm like, well, it's working. I'm here for them. So, yeah, I mean, there's so many. But the funny part is like, after you have those moments and you're like, wow, okay, when you come back to like normal reality, being able to have those like friend groups are like way more important than these big experiences. So I think a lot of people with social media, like, F1 was in Miami this weekend. I'm in Miami and everyone's like, are you going? Are you going? My agency's going, blah, blah, blah. You can get invited. Like, I don't want to go. I don't need to go. I went a couple of years ago. It is really fun. But I think a lot of people get caught up in like the hype of like what everything looks like. And to be honest, the most important things in life are the people that are standing around you and yourself. Like you have to fill your cup in order to fill other people's cups, and they have to do the same for you. So like family, friends, your faith, whatever it is, I think those are like the most important. And obviously experiences is like right up there after that. But yeah, sometimes it's hard to come back to reality. Like I just did that, and now I'm just sitting in my room. Like I mean, like, what is this weird life? But yeah, I think it's been crazy.
Every week we do on our show, This Week I Learned, right? Where you have a moment to share something, 3 to 4 minutes on something novel related to the space that you want to share with the audience here. So I'm going to turn it over to Sasha first, if you don't mind going first. Then we'll go Will, me, and then save the best for last, Caitlin.
I'm not sure it will be the best, but let's.
You'll be fine.
Yeah. Well, no, I think it's actually really relevant to what we were just talking about. And I think for me, it's not really something I learned, but just a reflection piece this past week. Being involved in the WESA's Florida affiliate chapter, last week we hosted a webinar that was just really an opportunity to have a discussion amongst members and just talking about being a woman in the field and some of those challenges that we face, and just having a safe, open forum we had some kind of questions for discussion and stuff, like kind of guide the discussion, but just having that space and that sense of community. And I think that the feedback that we got from those who attended was just like, thank you for having this space. And I think it talks about what you were just talking about, Caitlin, about having those positive people around you. And I think specifically within cybersecurity, I think we're always trying to stay on top of the latest emerging tech, AI, and all this stuff, and all these particular certifications and tech skills. But it's that people piece. And, that's something that the human side of stuff, something that we, do try and focus on here at SkillRex. But I think it's not just about that professional development in your career, but really making sure that you're finding your sense of community, and whether that's with your coworkers, whether that is joining an organization, or just making sure that you have that balance, with your work and home life, and just how important community is, because I think it really allows you to be able to have a safe space to share, the challenges that you're going through, the resilience that you're having to overcome, having that sense of support. And I don't know, that was just something that more just reflecting on. And I was just really appreciative of, I have that space, not only with my coworkers here, but in the organizations I'm a part of. And I think it's just reiterated a lot recently of how important that is. So that's my share.
Can I actually add on to that?
Yeah.
Okay. I literally love that, because I also want to I hate being like the Debbie Downer for some of this, but I like the reality is too, like there's gonna be people in your life that look like they're cheerleaders for you, but they're not. And they're secretly wanting to tear you down, or they're jealous or whatever. There's people that outwardly will go against you. And a lot of times it's so people that you find that are closest to you. The people that honestly, at the beginning of my career, it was a lot of the people that I had worked with that I would think that would have my back. And a lot of social media people say this too, their closest friends are the ones making fun of them. My brother's ex-girlfriend used to make fun of me behind my back all the time.
Wow.
Not that I was that close to her, but it's a lot of times people that you think would be in your corner or would want you in your corner are the ones that actually tear you down. So don't get discouraged. But the community aspect is so, so important, because there's also, millions of other women and girls that are there to support you and have just as big of dreams as you. And so I've been in jobs where, I actually next weekend I have my old boss and my mentor and then my mentee. So it's the three of us, and we see each other at least every year. They're coming down, and there's good people, but I also had other bosses that are terrible, both female and male. And so I think I just like to tell people it's not a bad thing, because it happens to everyone, and to find your people. There are great people in this world, and just know that even though you would want them to people to support you in your corner, they may not, but that doesn't mean that other people aren't cheering you on.
Yeah.
And so it's so, so important to have that, but it's like know that you're gonna have to, you know, kiss some frogs along the way until you find your people.
Good point.
But, yeah.
Yeah. No, well, and that community piece, like, again, like Sasha, you're talking about, like, you know, coworkers, and I'm thinking back to, like, I got my DJ mixer, I got my, like, turntables and stuff, and I was like showing you, because again, like, you and I are very into EDM and stuff, so I was like, and you know, I come away from these, like, meetings, you know, just internally, and I'm like, man, my cup is filled, right? We're doing well. And so again, it's a blessing, right? But so with my stuff, the stuff I've learned, and it's really just been getting into a lot of the hoopla with this whole, like, there's this huge squeeze happening just amongst the kind of upper echelon of, like, cyber professionals, like cyber leaders, right? Talking about how, you know, I believe, you know, there was this state of cybersecurity study, and it seems like everybody's kind of like coming out with them nowadays, but is by, I think it's Simplicity or Simplicity. It's SEE, Implicity. But they basically, you know, they have a big AI sort of cross-functional sort of focus there. But they were talking about how with these new AI, you know, policies and things being instituted, you know, they're starting to see their actual work hours, you know, going up rather than what is, you know, intuitively supposed to happen, which is that things go down, right? You know, the AI is kind of offloading some of the work, and it's like, well, actually, we're getting mired in governance and all these different things, and so then it got me into, you know, this whole, like, it was a huge rabbit hole of, like, that and the squeeze that is happening amongst, like, those senior leaders going into, like, token maxing. I don't know if you guys have seen that, where, like, a bunch of businesses are basically going and saying, hey, whoever, like, has generated the most tokens, whoever's using the AI the most is going to get, like, a prize, or, like, you know, just things like that, where it's like, use the AI and show evidence that you have it via, like, how many tokens you've had to, like, you know, kind of like generate and send
Meanwhile,
over, right?
they've got like 20 pictures of random things generated.
Yeah, like, I'm like, if I was in any of these like deals, I could totally see, like, you know, okay, I'll just put it on a personal project or something if we're just going to do that output. And even, you know, people acknowledge, like, yeah, like, some people do use the tokens for that, but they're adopting it. And so part of me is like, is that like a good adoption strategy? Because again, it's the whole, like, well, we don't want to be out competed, we don't want all that kind of stuff. And so it's like, well, is that the best metric to go by? And like, because it isn't decent incentive to, you know, get people to adopt this. But so there's that, and then, you know, a lot of leaders and professionals are basically saying, you know, we're spending a sufficient amount of the budget on AI, but not about you know, that people to AI connection, right? About how to, you know, efficiently and effectively leverage that AI capability. And so they're finding that there's this execution gap that is happening between the actual technology we have on hand and, you know, the ability for people to use it to its full, you know, potential.
I appreciate that we have Caitlin here for this episode today, because mine's a little bit doomy and gloomy. So, like, the, you know, the concept of being resilient and, you know, don't letting, you know, people grind you down, and you know, carving your own path to success is I think key. But you know, I was looking at the April workforce report from LinkedIn, because they put one out every single month, and it's kind of bleak. They looked at national hiring, and that's down 6.3% this past quarter, and it's leaving hiring 24% below its pre-pandemic pace. So when, like, compared to February 2020, and then we look at hiring in technology, information, and media, that's down 28% below pre-pandemic pace. So, you know, I worry a lot. Like, worry about the economy, where we're going right now. We have conflicts everywhere. It's cost of living's expensive. AI is a disruptor to the space, whether, you know, what side of the coin we kind of fall in the argument of whether it's an enabler or whether it's a detriment. I think that's still TBD, but certainly organizations are using AI as a means to make some hiring decisions or firing decisions. So I think, you know, it's, again, doom and gloom there on the hiring front, but I think the messaging here is, you got to stay resilient. You got to find your people, find your tribe, carve out something that works for you. And sometimes, you have to do pivots, and pivots are okay. Sometimes maybe it's a divine destiny or something like that. But, I do hope the hiring improves. I know we know so many people in this space, and we all know people who are on the bench looking for a job and just can't believe, like, why is that person still looking for a position? Like, they're amazing. Hopefully we see these numbers improve over the next year here, but I think that was just an interesting piece. So with that happy note, Caitlin, why don't you take it away?
Oh my gosh, I've learned so much. No, I think so. I'll say that like the tech one I learned that's been going on for the last couple weeks, but just about like Anthropic's like mythos and like whether or not we need to be worried. So basically, if you guys don't know, like Anthropic has like a new AI model. It came out like, actually it's not new. It came out like almost a month ago now, but it's so good that like with cybersecurity, it can literally find like software vulnerabilities faster and sometimes better than human experts. And which is good because it can help companies fix some security issues, but also raise a concern on, okay, well then the hackers are going to know where to do it. And for me personally, I obviously think about all of the consumers, the consumer end of this, like some people literally still go to the Apple store to update their iPhones. So can we imagine how bad their software, their cybersecurity, like kind of hygiene is in general, like with all the like internet connected devices and everything like that. So that's what I'm concerned about. And that's why I'm like, we now more than ever need to continue to harp on the fact that like everyone needs to update their softwares, and then hopefully we can use this for good, but they're not releasing it yet. And there's like a whole debate on how, like, if this powerful of an AI should even be able to be released. Anthropic did say that it like passed its security checks, but many people are actually saying that it's smart enough now to know when it's a security test and it knows to pass it versus just to like go off on its own. I think it's smart enough to pass the security test and like manipulate it, to be honest. So I'm a little freaked out. And I know the government's obviously like not using Anthropic right now, but I think that's really interesting. And like, again, now more than ever, I'm like, just all we can do is like, from a consumer standpoint, is like make sure everything's on auto update and like hope that we have faith in the technology that we're using, and the apps and the websites that we're using. And then on your note, Jeff, I think now more than ever, like I'm just so discouraged with like companies and like trying to fire entry level or not hire entry level, because I ask every like CISO, I'm like, where did you learn the most? And every single person's like, I learned everything on the job from my entry level perspective. So I'm like, if we're not hiring entry level and we're starting to replace entry level with AI, one, who's monitoring the AI because they don't even know what they're monitoring for, because they don't know what they're doing because they didn't have an opportunity to be taught. And two, like we're not giving anyone opportunities to learn like real life skills. Because no offense to most universities out there, the coursework is not anywhere close to what you do in the field. And so I really encourage big tech companies to rethink what they're doing with AI. I think we need to figure out a different way, but I also think this is a time for everyone to level up and stand out. Like going back to what we talked about, Will, of like, how do you build your personal brand? Your personal brand is, I've seen so many incredible people get let go in the last year that are like, I don't know why any company would let you go. You're like the biggest cheerleader for the company. And you need to build a personal brand. The people that I know that got jobs immediately after were all ones that have been working on building their personal brand on LinkedIn and been interacting with their network. So on that note, just build your personal brand on the side. You're able to do it. And like, you don't have to like do anything crazy. Just start posting, or you don't even have to post. You can respond. You can post about the news, what interests you, even if it's not like tech news, right? Like post about like, golf, post about something, relate it back to what you're doing. I mean, you can do anything. People want to see everything on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is very underrated and everyone should join. Like if you don't have LinkedIn, join. But anyways, that's all of my tech news.
I love that. Thank you so much, Caitlin. And I think that's all we really have time for today. I wish we had more time because I could just sit for hours and chat with you. So this episode is a reminder that careers don't unfold the same way for everyone, and that persistence, self-belief, and resilience matter just as much as technical skill. So Caitlin, thank you again for showing what's possible when you refuse to let others define your worth. or limit your ambition. And to anyone listening who feels underestimated, overlooked, or discouraged, don't let the bastards grind you down. Keep showing up, keep building, keep believing. And if today's conversation resonated, we'd love for you to stay connected. Follow each of us on LinkedIn, follow the Cybersecurity Girl across social platforms, and check out Caitlin's work and content. You won't be displeased by it. Make sure you also subscribe to the Cyber Talent Matrix, like and comment on the episode to help others find these conversations, and tune in next time as we continue season 2. Just getting started.